I only meant to go away some laundry at his door. However, what I stumbled upon internal modified the entirety. There he become, Daniel, misplaced in a susceptible moment that no determine, no stepparent changed into ever meant to witness. Might you have turned away or stayed and crossed a line you can in no way uncross? If you believe the deepest testimonies lie hidden in the back of normal moments, be sure to like, subscribe, and percentage your thoughts in the comments under. Now, let's step quietly into that bloodless Savannah nighttime wherein everything began. December in Savannah unfolds a haunting splendor, a juxtaposition of heat and relax that stirs the soul. The vintage cobblestone streets shimmer with a haunting mist. The Spanish moss clings greater tightly to the gnarled very well, and a biting wind creeps into each crack and crevice, murmuring secrets and techniques intended best for the solitary souls who wander there. Within the confines of our unassuming two-tailed domestic on the edge of metropolis, the heater struggled to fight the biting bloodless even as I meticulously folded laundry. The tender mild of the dwelling room lamp casting flickering shadows that danced round me. The hour had grown overdue, a long way later than I had ever expected. Tom had already retreated to his mattress, utterly exhausted from the relentless demands of but any other grueling day. At the development website online, the residence changed into shrouded in a suffocating silence, the sort that wintry weather nights on my own can conjure. With a precarious stack of clothes teetering in my hands, I carefully made my way towards the bedrooms, every step heavy with anticipation. Compelled through routine, I discovered myself leaving laundry out of doors every door, a silent ritual that echoed through the stillness of the hallways, a humdrum cycle devoid of concept. Yet inside the depths of that nighttime, a heavy fog of fatigue and wandering mind guided my hand towards the door that was not meant to be opened. I flung the door open, my heart racing, awaiting the guest room, anticipating the void inside. As an alternative, I discovered Daniel. He lay on his mattress, his frame half turned from the door, enveloped within the haunting body of gentle shadows. His hand crept underneath the delicate blanket, shifting with a deliberate, instinctual cadence whilst his breath hitched in a series of fragmented sighs. I stood paralyzed. A wave of panic crashed over me. I should have shut that door tight. I should have became my returned and left it all in the back of. Yet, my toes remained anchored to the floor, my coronary heart racing in my ears, drowning out each other's sound within the room. He possessed an intensity that turned into profoundly raw, an essence that transcended the physical, revealing a deeply human vulnerability that tugged on the heart. In that flickering second, I witnessed a boy grappling with the weight of his personal disgrace. I witnessed the profound weight of solitude, a deep aching longing, delicacy. Then his eyes fluttered open and he locked onto mine. A wave of disbelief washed over his capabilities. His frame convulsed, desperately attaining for the blanket, for a shred of dignity, for something that would guard him from the terrifying reality of exposure. I cannot believe this. I'm so sorry. I stammered, my voice a fragile whisper, trembling on the edge of silence. I stepped again, the door closing with a soft but decisive thud, my arms trembling uncontrollably, because the laundry slipped from my grasp, cascading to the ground in a chaotic heap. I stood there quaking, the relentless thrum of my coronary heart echoing in my ears, the heavy burden of what I had simply visible rooting me to that frigid, risky earth. And deep within, a diffused shift occurred, a fracture imperceptible to the attention, but just extensive enough to ask the chilling body of iciness. Sleep eluded me that night. Whenever I closed my eyes, Daniel's face haunted me. His disbelief, his humiliation, the frantic manner he fought to shield himself. The picture wrapped around me, suffocating just like the damp setback that lingered outside. I writhed in stressed turmoil, the creaking springs of the mattress echoing my inner chaos whilst Tom lay beside me enveloped in A deep, oblivious slumber. With the aid of morning, the complete revel lingered inside the air, hauntingly surreal, as though it had been plucked from the depths of a shiny nightmare. I clung to the desire that perhaps Daniel hadn't clearly noticed me, that he would possibly push aside it as simply a trick of the mild, or that in time he would sincerely forget about. Perhaps we are each capable of this. As I stepped into the kitchen, the sight of him slumped over a bowl of cereal dispatched a relax through me. In that instantaneous, I understood the entirety. His whole frame turned into coiled with tension, shoulders inflexible, eyes avoided, keeping off the burden of my gaze. The air among us was suffocating, heavy with unspoken phrases, as though the very walls had been straining to incorporate the burden of our silence. "Desirable morning," I said, my voice tinged with an unsettling brightness. "Morning," he muttered, his eyes fixed carefully at the bowl before him, as though it held the burden of the sector. Tom glanced from side to side among us, completely blind to the storm brewing under the surface. "What grand aims do you've got these days, my buddy?" Daniel's head trembled in disbelief. "Only magnificence. Possibly the gymnasium later on." I observed him from the alternative side of the table, my heart constricting with each passing second. In an instant, he appeared so much younger. Not the self-assured younger guy I had visible mature over the past 2 years. However, a boy suffocating within his own pores and skin. I need to have spoken up. I should have determined a direction to dissolve the anxiety, to offer my apologies another time, to guarantee him that the whole thing become all proper. But the phrases had become a heavy weight lodged in my throat. Alternatively, I immersed myself inside the dishes, scrubbing a plate with fervor, deliberately ignoring the way Daniel pushed lower back his chair and escaped the room. The instant he finished ingesting, by way of midday, Tom had left for paintings, and another time I discovered myself on my own inside the house, the silence wrapping round me like a heavy shroud, haunted by using the echoes of that fateful night time. Isolated, the guilt clawing relentlessly at my middle. I attempted to immerse myself in chores, vacuuming, dusting, rearranging books on the cabinets. However, each faint noise dispatched my heart racing, igniting a typhoon of tension inside me. A door creaked ominously from the shadows above. Footsteps echo ominously down the hall. With every shift of Daniel's presence, an undeniable power coursed via the house, igniting a heightened feel of cognizance that clung to me relentlessly during the day. I caught fleeting glimpses of him, soaring at the edge of the hallway, lingering by the stairs. But whenever he avoided his gaze, vanishing before I should muster the courage to method him, and via all of it, a chilling idea clawed at the edges of my cognizance. Had something irrevocably modified between us? Or became it merely my personal notion twisting truth? The subsequent days opened up in an unsettling talk cadence. Daniel refrained from me with a frantic awkwardness, vanishing into his room the instant my footsteps echoed, feigning deep attention on his cell phone on every occasion our paths intersected. I performed my part as well, feigning lack of expertise. The weight of unstated words hung heavily inside the air, maintained the facade of normally, yet the whole thing felt profoundly ordinary. Tom toiled late into the night, fed on through relentless 12-month quick closing dates, because the residents grew an increasing number of silent, weighed down by an oppressive stillness with every passing nighttime. The biting cold seeped via the cracked window panes, wrapping the room in an unsettling sit-back. The heater let loose a haunting groan from within the walls, echoing an experience of unease among Daniel and me, an invisible twine tightened with every passing day, vibrating with an unsettling mix of fragility and peril. I fought to stay occupied, grading papers, decorating a small Christmas tree in the nook of the residing room, but my thoughts betrayed me, repeatedly spiraling lower back to that fateful night. Not to what I witnessed, however, to the depths of what I skilled. The crushing weight of solitude, the deep relentless ache, no longer merely his, so is mine. At times, I'd seize fleeting glimpses of him. A figure looms on the pinnacle of the steps, hesitating for a heartbeat earlier than vanishing into the darkness. A quick encounter inside the hallway, eyes filled with a tumultuous blend of dread and desire. Silence enveloped us, heavy and suffocating. Neither folks had the braveness to shatter the delicate, faded truce that held us in its traumatic grip. As twilight descended, casting shadows across the yard, I found Daniel lingering at the again porch, a solitary figure within the stillness simply moments after Tom had departed for his in a single-day adventure. He perched on the weathered timber steps, a flimsy sweatshirt providing scant safety against the biting wind, his breath escaping in sensitive ghostly wisps. He remained oblivious to my gaze, constant closely from the shadows of the kitchen window. Or possibly he surely did. Possibly he had really lost all sense of concern. The sky loomed overhead, a deep, unsettling hue harking back to bruises as the very last remnants of daylight bled away into darkness. He seemed so insignificant in that good-sized expanse, engulfed via the biting cold, ate up through an unseen pressure lurking underneath the floor. In that agonizing immediate, an amazing urge to attain out to him surged within me. I longed to envelop him in a heat embodied, to whisper that he changed into whole, to wipe away the pain etched in his expression. I clutched to counter with a fierce intensity, my knuckles turning pale as I fought against the urge to move, anchoring myself in that second of turmoil. Out of doors, Daniel shivered violently, drawing his hands tighter round himself as if to beat back the encroaching kick back. That seeped into his very bones. And deep within me, a fracture widened, a painful echo reverberating via my soul. I lingered outside Daniel's door, time stretching forever and ever inside the heavy silence. The laundry basket cradled in my arms served merely as a facade, a lifeline amidst the chaos of my racing thoughts. Grappling with the forbidden echoes that haunted my thoughts, I ought to have become lower back. However, the route beforehand loomed larger than my doubts. Leaving the basket at his door and taking walks away were the higher desire. Rather, I lifted my hand and tapped lightly as if sharing a hidden reality. In that fleeting instant, silence reigned ultimate. Then a voice emerged, fragile and hesitant. Yeah, my throat constricted. It's simplest me. I cannot. I faltered, the words slipping via my palms like sand, every syllable heavy with unstated weight. Neither. Folks dared to transport. Now not a single breath escaped our lips. Outdoor, the winter typhoon raged violently against the house. Within the confines of that area, two shattered beings grasped at one another, precariously balanced on the brink of an irreversible fate. That night time, as the shadows danced around the dinner desk, Tom's voice cut through the air with a startling statement. He'd become going to the gymnasium after paintings. I may not be again until past due, he murmured, his lips brushing against my cheek in a fleeting moment that felt heavy with unstated words. Do not anticipate me. I strained to grin, my coronary heart pounding violently in my chest. As soon as he departed, an oppressive, throbbing silence enveloped the residence. I fought to maintain my fingers occupied, folding laundry with trembling fingers, dusting shelves that regarded to acquire greater dirt with every passing moment, wiping down the kitchen counters as though erasing the burden of the arena from their surfaces. Whatever to distract myself from the intense, aching pull that had been constructing among Daniel and me, I made a promise to myself to stay. Downstairs, battling the urge that clawed at my remedy, I swore to myself that I'd hold my distance from him. But as a mild knock echoed through the kitchen door, my determination shattered into portions. Daniel lingered within the shadows, a storm of feelings swirling inside him. Minuscule, a glide, bleeding loneliness from each pore, a haunting ache that grips the soul, please," he breathed, his voice trembling with urgency. In an instantaneous, the whole thing I knew unraveled before me. We sat together on the dwelling room couch, the blinking Christmas lighting casting a flickering glow, the most effective witnesses to the unstated phrases hanging heavily inside the air. To begin with, we had been worlds far away from each other, then inching ever nearer, then a long way to close. Daniel's hand grazed mine, hesitant and quivering with unspoken feelings. I remained steadfast, refusing to retreat. He drew nearer, the depth of his presence enveloping me, igniting a fire within. As he pressed his head in opposition to my chest, his arms wrapping round me with an urgency that took my breath away, I discovered myself maintaining him instinctively, misplaced inside the moment. I have to have positioned an end to it. I must have pushed him away. My hand instinctively tangled in his hair, stroking and cradling, drawing him ever closer as if the world round us diminished away. His breath seared in opposition to my collarbone, igniting a fireplace inside me as he tilted his face upward. The air crackled with anticipation, our lips tantalizingly near, simply inches aside, simply one breath on the point of catastrophe. An unmarried heartbeat hangs inside the stability. And that was the instant that the front door burst open with a deafening crash. Tom. He stood there, drenched through the relentless downpour, the gymnasium bag abandoned at his toes, a silent witness to his turmoil. His gaze pierced through the air, a palpable depth enveloping us. Daniel's body encased mine, my fingers clinging to him as our faces hovered perilously close. Breaths mingling in the charged silence. Shocked silence. Worry grips the heart. Fury ignites the soul in an unmarried searing moment. What inside the international is that this? Tom rasped, his voice a chilling whisper that hung heavy in the air. I recoiled, scrambling to my FT, my heart pounding in my throat. Tom, I cannot. It's no longer what it appears. I stumbled over my words, the load of uncertainty urgent down on me. Daniel curled into the couch, his face ashen and full of dread. Tom's fists tightened at his sides, his entire frame quaking with slightly contained rage. Without uttering an unmarried phrase, he spun on his heel and charged up the stairs, each step echoing with a haunting creak that mirrored the turmoil within him, leaving Daniel and me paralyzed amidst the shattered remnants of all we once loved. Silence enveloped us that nighttime. Tom remained upstairs, the burden of the instant heavy in the air. Daniel remained locked away in his room, the silence thickening round him. On my own on the couch, I fixated on the blinking Christmas lights, every flicker piercing through the silence like a harsh judgment, amplifying the load of my solitude. The following morning, Tom silently stuffed a bag, the load of unstated mind putting heavily in the air. I want space, he declared, his voice bloodless and remote, warding off my gaze as though the weight of his words hung heavily inside the air. I will stay by my brother's side for a time. I parted my lips, determined to plead, to get to the bottom of the chaos, to utter an unmarried phrase that might mend the devastation. Yet silence hung heavy within the air, a void in which words once thrived. With the aid of noon, Daniel had vanished, leaving an unsettling silence in his wake. Silence reigns. There has been no farewell. Best an empty room stays, suffocated through the oppressive weight of regret that hangs thickly in the air. The house loomed massive, an echoing void, steeped in silence, aching of their absence, every creak of the floorboards, each rattle of the historical home windows reverberated with the weight of irrevocable choices, haunting my each step. I had obliterated it all. It wasn't because of a lack of love for Tom. It wasn't our purpose to go that line. Daniel and I, in a fleeting moment of vulnerability, an unmarried instance of profound loneliness, I lost sight of my authentic self, and that I overlooked the man or woman they expected me to come to be. Love transcends mere ardor. Love is a delicate stability of protecting lower back. Love is unwavering devotion. Love is the agonizing choice to do what's proper, while your heart shatters into portions. And now and again, the fee of erasing that memory is some distance extra than you can ever wish to repay. If this tale stirred something deep within you, a memory, a fear, a concealed sorrow, please take a second to love, subscribe, and share your reflections in the feedback. Each voice consists of weight. In moments of vulnerability, revealing your own adventure can ignite a spark of desire in some other's wounded soul. Your presence on this journey has been priceless. Thanks for being right here with us. Preserve on tight. Stay steadfast till we meet.